Welcome to an excerpt of Cauldron of Terror Gaza, Hamas, Israel, and the World, written by Mark Silinsky and published by Pen and Sword. This is presented by Kensington Security Consulting, which brings education to national security. This episode profiles Moshe Dayan, his accomplishments, and his influence on Arab-Israeli relations. Who was Moshe Dayan? Yossi Argaman, an Israeli military historian, offered,
"In all the years of Israel's history, there has not existed a military hero or dominant figure like him. Moshe Dayan symbolized the national and military rebirth and the revitalization of Jewish strength, the myth of the Jewish fighter. He climbed so high that he became a kind of god. His clerks at the Ministry of Defense even dressed like him. He would walk around in a brown suede coat, and everyone followed suit. He had a magical influence. I don't remember anyone, not even military heroes, who had such an influence and who were elevated to such heights on a national level."
high praise indeed. And this view was widely shared. But how does this esteemed legacy relate to the Hamas-Israel conflict? First, let's look at the man and his enduring ideas. Born in 1915, he lived in the country's first kibbutz, and in 1936 joined the Haganah. The British arrested and imprisoned him for a time. In June 1941, he lost his left eye in battle in Lebanon, after which he wore a distinctive eye patch. He formulated a doctrine for both conventional and insurgent warfare. His ideas still influence Israel today. Long before becoming a legend, he worked under his military mentor, the controversial yet effective British officer, Orde Wingate, who developed an innovative tactic for hunting and eliminating Arab militants, especially those attacking civilians. Wingate taught and inspired Dayan to lead his men from the front and to strike the enemy where and when it's least expected. He also advised Dayan to respect Arabs who avoided hostilities. Wingate valued intelligence, and both focused on action-oriented soldiers. Dayan's ambivalent attitude toward the Arab population developed during his service with the British. He took orders from Orde Wingate and was determined to understand Arab customs and ceremonies. While serving in the Wingate-led strike units, he learned to be tough yet respectful toward Arabs in Palestine. In the 1950s, he developed tactics against insurgents that reflected Wingate's methods. He shaped the Israeli Defense Forces culture, first as Chief of Staff during the 1956 campaign, and later as Defense Minister through both the 1967 and 1973 conventional wars. However, before, between, and during these major conflicts, the IDF carried out current security operations, small military actions against the Arab insurgency. His crowning achievement was his performance in the 1967 war, which strengthened his reputation. After 1967, the IDF faced the challenge of managing the population in the West Bank and Gaza. Moshe Dayan developed policies for the population from the founding of the IDF through the critical period after 1967. His ideas and practices in counterinsurgency have become a tradition in themselves. Dayan and open bridges. Dayan's policy of open bridges aimed to maximize economic and political freedom while minimizing interference in daily life. First, it emphasized cooperation and accommodation with the Arabs. He did not present a specific plan to resolve the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. He was openly opposed to annexation because that would either force Israel to make the Arabs full voting citizens or keep them in a quasi-apartheid state of lesser citizenship. In hindsight, this policy seems to have been effective. There was stability for nearly 20 years, despite Israel's expansion of housing in the occupied territories. However, his governance faced criticism. First, many religious Jews were disappointed and resentful because they were denied full access to the Temple Mount, which also serves as a holy site for Muslims. In June 1967, Israeli paratroopers captured the Old City, the Western Wall, and the Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism, all of which are located within. As defense minister, Dayan, a secularist, blocked access to accommodate Arabs. A major complaint was that Jews could not pray at the Mount, and that the Arabs, whom Dayan sought to appease, were ungrateful. Some critics went further, arguing that this accommodation could be seen as a sign of weakness. The second criticism of Dayan was related to the first, his approach to Arabs regarding the Temple Mount. This criticism was broader and questioned the perspective he used to view Arab-Israeli relations. After October 2023, his earlier policies were widely condemned as naive and harmful to Israel. Given his stature and legendary status, Dayan's view of accommodation carried significant weight. His critics accused him of promoting a peacenik policy, with those committed to wiping out Israel. To support their claims, critics pointed to Dayan's policies and rhetoric. They sometimes misattributed his eulogy at Roy Rothberg's 1956 funeral. Terrorists from Gaza murdered and mutilated a young kibbutznik, and Dayan delivered a eulogy in which he urged his fellow Jews to show compassion toward Arabs rather than revenge. His critics interpreted his speech as weak and naive. However, the core message was far from spineless. He advised showing compassion while staying vigilant. He said, "Let us not be deterred from seeing the loathing that is inflaming and filling the lives of the hundreds of thousands of Arabs who live around us. Let us not avert our eyes lest our arms weaken. This is the fate of our generation. This is our life's choice, to be prepared and armed, strong and determined, lest the sword be stricken from our fist and our lives cut down." Are these the words of a pacifist? However, after the October 2023 attack, his speeches and conversations were carefully examined. In a speech Dayan gave in 1969, he also clarified that he did not blame Arab hostility on supposed forcible dispossession. He said, "We purchased the land from Arabs and set up Jewish villages where there had once been Arab villages." In response, his critics contended that Muslim hostility was fueled by a deadly hatred of Jews and a desire to remove their presence from the area. Some claim that Dayan used his influence to promote his secular and naive peacenik policy, which they say jeopardized Israeli security and, in turn, led Hamas to launch its attacks in 2023. But what do you think? We value your opinion. This concludes the reading of the biography Cauldron of Terror, Gaza, Hamas, Israel, and the World by Mark Silinsky, published by Pen and Sword. If you enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing. The book will be available online or at major bookstores worldwide in summer 2026. This reading does not represent the official position of any agency or individual within the United States government. On behalf of Kensington Security Consulting, thank you for listening.